Yo. Welcome to the NS9LIVE. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim. We have Tyler. Just the three of us. It's been a while. How's it going?
We back, baby.
We are back. And it's the off season. Postseason, technically, for the good teams. Off season for us.
How exciting is that? Like, I know we talked about a little bit. We were kind of the end of the ropes there. It's the end of the season. It's been a long season. It's sad, but it's also exciting. Now it's here. It's past, right? The season's over. How do we feel right now?
I'd be much happier if we were getting ready to do a post-game show right now.
Yeah, I'd rather be doing a post-season post-game show than an off-season NS9LIVE.
No shit. But we're not there. So I'm asking, how do you guys feel right now?
Genuinely,
Happy,
I feel
sad.
I don't want to say I'm glad the season's over, but I'm ready to move on to the next step.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. I think we talked about this a little bit on Starbucks one time, like towards the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, the season was interesting. We'll get into it. It was a long season, not what we hoped it would be. I think once like May hit, I think we were hoping for a different outcome. At the same time, 162 games, it's a grind even for us fans. Especially if you're doing a daily post-game show and you hop on here and talk about baseball 2-3 times a week. It can be a grind. So yeah, it's nice to have like a little bit of a break.
Also, new is fun, and we're walking into what might be new for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That's true. We don't have to talk about the same thing that we've been talking for the last 180 days. We don't have to talk about that anymore. We're going to talk about it tonight, but after tonight, we don't really have to talk about it anymore.
I think that's why exactly where I mean, you guys know, I've talked about this time and time again. I love the off season. And, I was, like I said, I was sad. Like the season was approaching its end, but like now it is over. And like, I'm in off season mode. Just like, I'm already there. I'm just thinking about like all the stuff that's coming up, all the things that we're doing, all the things the Pirates are doing. Potentially, like I'm ready. And like how Tyler said, like now it's all in the past. It's all new. Looking forward to what the Pirates could be. It's hopeful. I'll put it that way. Maybe not so much exciting, but it leaves you hopeful and more optimistic than these last 180 days were.
Yeah, it's like a little bit rejuvenating.
There you go.
And
like I'm already
like you said, I'm a little more hopeful now because when you're 10 games below 500, the hope gets lost. Right now, there's always next year, baby.
Yeah. Like, that's a good point. It's not, but now they're 0-0 again.
Yeah. Pirates are 0-0 for 2024. We're not really entirely sure what the roster is going to look like. So yeah, there's stuff to look forward to.
Also, like we're going to get to it eventually, but I feel like for the last 2 years we've been doing this, we've been talking about 2024.
We kind of were talking about 2023 for a little bit there.
But for the
I think we were hoping it would be 2023.
Hoping for 2023, but 2024 was the year.
That's fair. And 2024 is now upon us.
We made it.
Which also means there's now no excuses. But it is upon us.
Oh, we're gonna get real shitty.
But let's go ahead and think backwards now a little bit. I know we're talking ahead. We're again, like I can see it. I see it all on our faces right now. Our heads were in the mindset of 2024, looking forward. But let's go ahead and go back a little bit. That's what this show is going to be. And we have a whole month of playoff baseball. No real offseason stuff happening for the Pirates. So there's a lot of time to do this. I think we'll talk more generally tonight. We might get more specific stuff like going forward. You'll probably have a few shows or some review stuff in the upcoming shows. But today it's gonna be very general. So Tyler, you're the one who kind of brought us up today, and you're the one who really talked on it in the beginning of the season. To quote you and tell me if I'm right or wrong. You pretty much said like it has to be 75 wins this year. If it's below that, you'll be uneasy. But there's 75 wins, you feel like you could be comfortable. So let's dwell on that. The Pirates won 76 this year, exceeded all three of our numbers. I think I was at 72. Jim, do you recall?
I think I was 74. Was my official.
I think I had 75.
I think you did too. You were the most optimistic.
Yeah. Tyler had 75. I had 74. You had 72. Yep.
So they exceeded all of our expectations.
Yeah.
So how do we feel?
Well, I guess I'll just take it from there. I mentioned many times that I felt like if they had the talent to win 75 games. I also felt like if they did not win 75 games, I thought they should clean house because it wasn't going to be good enough. Now, granted, when I look at this as an entire season, you see 76 wins and you think, you know what? They did what I thought they should do this year. You throw in that they lost O'Neal Cruz. I should be very happy with where they ended up. That's looking at it in a vacuum. When you look at the entire season and I think you really break it down, I think it's really hard to not be at least slightly disappointed in it. If we're talking about the grand scheme of things, yeah, 76 wins. It's a good building block, I think. But the way that they got there, I think, leaves me a little more disappointed than I am optimistic. Because the way that they got there was built on a 20-8 start that we talked a lot about, obviously, doing 162 post-game shows. But they spotted themselves a great start. And the amount of losses that they compiled throughout the summer makes it really tough to look into next year and be optimistic. And we went over so many times about how good of baseball they're playing in August and September, but at the same time, I don't know if it was the right. I don't know if I felt great about it going into next year. Yes, they play great baseball, but it wasn't anything I think I could look at and say, okay, they're building on something here. The way I think I would put it here is that, Jim, you're a Steeler fan as well. Last year, the Steelers, down the stretch, they win a lot of games, but you watch it, Matt Canada has to go. Going into next year, as a Pirates fan, Pirates look great down the stretch. There's still something missing there, and you know that this whole thing we got going on here, it's not what's going to be the answer. Something has to change there in order to take that next step. That's kind of where I feel with them right now.
So I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know necessarily about, like, it sounds like you're talking more about like there are people either in the front office or on the coaching staff who need to go.
Andy Haynes, yes.
I think I think that would be fine. Like if Andy Haynes went, like I don't think that's gonna affect a whole lot. I don't think that's gonna I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in the hitting and pitching coaches on this team. But to answer the original question, are you happy or disappointed in this season? Yeah, I said 74 wins, and I think I would have been happy with 74 wins. Like that's a 12 win improvement from last season if they would have won 74 games. But expectations change after that April that they had. And so when you originally say, you know what, I think this team could win 74 games, and then in April they come out as hot as they did, and they only finish with 76 wins, that's a disappointment. I think it was Ethan Fisher. I've got it up right here. He listed every single team that had won 20 games in April. And the Pirates are the first team in the history of Major League Baseball to win 20 games in April and not have a winning record. So I don't know how you can chalk that up to anything but a disappointment, and or you want to use the word disaster, feel free to use it. They're the worst team to ever win 20 games in April. Ever. Like, baseball's been around since the Civil War. No one's done this before. Ever. No one's ever won 20 games in April and finished with a losing record until the 2023 Pittsburgh Pirates. So again, 76 wins, better than my expectations, but expectations quickly changed after those first 4 or 5 weeks. And you can't feel good about a 76 win season after the way this team started.
Let me throw some perspective in there, guys. If the 20-8 happened in, well, it wouldn't happen in July because of the break. If the 20-8 happened in June, it wouldn't be looked at as big picture as it happened in April, right? I mean, it's right away. The Pirates in first place, like, you know, them and the Rays, the best record in baseball, you know, going back and forth. Like that's where the Pirates were off rip. That's why it's big in that sense. But if it happened in June, no one would be talking about it as much. So I guess where I'm at is when I look at that, my disappointment is in the front office not doing more to try to maintain it or try to say, hey, you know what, maybe let's make this serious. Because also at the end of the day, the Pirates did have 76 wins. We saw 84 got in the wild card. What if you turn some of those losses into wins? Like maybe they could have done something. You know, maybe they stayed afloat long enough to the trade deadline. They make a trade. Like maybe they're actually losing in the playoffs tonight, which I'd be fine with.
Yeah,
they made it. You know,
it's a good point.
But like, I look at that more as that's my disappointment in the front office. But like, I can't put it on the team because let's also be real. Going into the season, no one looks at this team and says it's a 20-8 team. Like they played above expectations. It's just the Pirates didn't say, hey, there's an opportunity. Let's capitalize. It's like when I look at the team in itself, yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that every rookie almost outside of like Carmen Majinski and Jared Triolo, which is not the rookies you're relying on in this rebuild, let's be honest, right? Every rookie struggled like the entire time. Now, granted, like we talk, right? Rookies will struggle. That's why we went up here earlier than later, right? Get the struggles out the way and be better. But like no one like finally caught on. There was no oh no Cruz where, okay, they struggled and then August 29th hit and boom, they figured it out, right? They had a monster September. They just continued struggling. That worries me because this is the rebuild. Here's the future. If this team's going to be good, they're going to be relying on a lot of these players to be good. So there was never a moment where like going into at the end of 2022, going into 2023, you said, you know what? When you look at the overall numbers of O'Neill Cruz, they're not great. They're good enough, but I feel comfortable this guy's going to be a stud. I don't feel that way from any rookie right now. It's still hopeful for next year. A lot of question marks. You know, so like that's where my disappointment really is like, what's the development really like? If this is a rebuild and we need to develop these guys, and so far the development looks like it's still lacking, how can we be really comfortable with these players becoming what they need to be good? But what leaves me really optimistic is the final 2 months on the vets. Like the way Brian Reynolds finished, the way Cabrian Hayes finished, you know, like when I look at this season, I think we're hoping Cabrian Hayes to just be league average, like best output, right? Brian Reynolds to be what he is. Mitch Keller, hopefully he is what he is. I took away this season, even though the numbers weren't fantastic. Mitch Keller, he's a good pitcher. Like Cabrian Hayes could be a stud. You know, Brian Reynolds, still that dude. So like, I'm still hopeful for next year. There's still a lot of holes to fill. If this team wants to truly contend, they've got to do a lot of work. But I look at the season just right in the middle. There was things that disappointed me that I wanted to be feeling better with today, but there's a lot of things that exceeded my expectations I wasn't expecting. Again, going more like to Brian Hayes. Oh, and the bullpen. I want kind of touch on that. Like the bullpen is actually not bad. That's kind of how I look at it. Like it's not bad. You add in a few arms, and like that could be a pretty solid unit next year.
I guess I'm not going to like be excited about the season because the bullpen looked good. Like
And I'm not saying
I
I'm
agree with
excited.
you. Like no, and I agree with you. Like I think the bullpen outperformed my expectations probably more than any unit, right, that the team has. And like the starting pitching, even like as with all the problems that they had, they still weren't a complete disaster. Like they were able to piece together quality outings for the better part of the season. I think it just all goes back to, yes, I know that it really shouldn't matter when those 20 wins came. Like if they came in June, yeah, I'd probably be feeling really good about this year, actually. Because of a 14 win increase while O'Neal Cruz was out and there was no JT Brubaker and Vince Velasquez. Like there's a lot of things you could cite and say this team got a lot better and a lot of things didn't happen that needed to happen, right? But I still kind of go back to that where you can't start off that good and then continue to think that and operate like you're a bad team because that's what they did. They continued to operate like they were a fourth place team. Ben Cherington came out and said it like we think we're a fourth place team, so we're outperforming expectations. He didn't do anything while they were outperforming expectations to continue outperforming those expectations. He let the team just slide back into where they ended up finishing. And we saw that really the Pirates didn't necessarily add anyone in the middle of the year. Like you talked about the rookies who came up. The rookies who came up didn't play great. Like they didn't play good even. But
They didn't play average.
they just didn't, yeah, they weren't even average, right? But
Nope.
you saw the team look a lot better when they just simply got rid of the really shitty players on their team and then just plugged them away with these very below average rookies. Like the team got significantly better when you took the bad guys off of it. And so that's what I just kind of keep going back to is they started off hot. They didn't make any changes to improve the team. They just kept running out the same guys who they expected to be fourth place guys. And guess what? They eventually became fourth place guys. So yeah, that's where I am with it. I'm not gonna like throw my arms up and like I'm not gonna riot. I'm not gonna storm PNC Park with a pitchfork or anything because
Well,
like
that's
the
no
season was
fun.
such a disaster. Like it was fine, right? I don't think you can't get upset, I think, over a 14 game increase. But after the April, you expected more.
I just
Again,
want to let you know, I'm
only
pretty sure
team.
there's AI images of you right now storming PNC. So just beware what you're talking about.
Yeah. Again, only team in Major League history to win 20 games in April and not have a winning record. That's bad. That's bad.
So I want to buy in more. And I really want to be encouraged by the 76 wins. And maybe just give me a week or two and maybe my mind will change here and I'm just dwelling on the season. But when we look at a Luis Ortiz that was terrible, Roansy Contreras that was terrible, Henry Davis that was terrible, Endy didn't hit a lick. Everybody that you counted on, Quinn Priester was awful. You go down the list, there's not a single one of the young guys that was contributing enough that I could really point to and say, that's the guy for the future. I can believe that they will be. And there are a few guys in there that I do think will be. But based upon their performance, I can't buy stock on any of them. They were
And
all
keep going
awful.
down the list. Peguero, Nick Gonzalez.
All of them. Awful. They all stunk. And give me a week. Like I'll sleep on it a few times. I'll talk myself back into him next year, and we'll be on here next week, and I'll be saying, you know what? I saw this out of him, and I liked it, but fresh off the season, they were all terrible, flat out terrible. Every one of them was bad,
And
other than Jared Triolo.
that's the part that leaves me uneasy. But I guess how I feel about that is it's an excuse, and I get it, but they all are rookies. And like the odds, right? When you're playing odds, they're not all going to be terrible. I can't imagine them all being terrible again next year. Like someone's going to click, even if it's 2 or 3 or whatever, right? Like someone's going to click. It's going to come. Cruz is coming back. So like I said, like that's why I'm kind of just in the middle with this. There were some things that left me feeling optimistic. And again, it's more like the vets. The young guys leave me very pessimistic, and that's why they kind of blend together. And I'm like, you know what? Like there was progress made this year. It came in places I wasn't expecting it, and the disappointments came in other places I wasn't expecting it. But altogether, it zeroes out. It's kind of where I'm at. Like I don't leave away from here feeling like I'm very, very disappointed. There are certainly things that disappointed me, but like when you see Cabron Hayes doing what he's doing, like that's huge going forward. But all the other disappointments brings that down too. Like I'm just kind of it happened. There's progress. There's still a lot of work. It's just different work right now. But I don't look like it this season and then going into next year as like this team can't make the playoffs. I see like there could certainly be a path. This team could be a playoff team. They got to do the things they need to do, and they still have to find some of these rookies that are going to hit. But like there's a path. This rebuild isn't completely gone. The season wasn't lost. When we were talking to me in June and July, I was extremely negative because there was no progress. Like that's how I look at it. No progress. Everybody was regressing. The rookies are terrible. Like everything stunk. It's because Cabron came back, Mitch came back, right? Johan Oviedo also like pretty solid season out of him, something that I wasn't expecting to see. And again, with Cabron Hayes, the way he performed, like those final 2 months to me was crucial in feeling net zero on this year. Otherwise, I was going to be very negative.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm not going to be very negative because I can point to some things that happened that were good. I can point to some things that happened that were bad, like Tyler mentioned. And I can see, and I don't even have to squint that much to see it. Like, I could see this team taking another step forward in 2024 and putting themselves in a spot where they can compete for a playoff spot. Now, I don't think they're going to, I don't think we're all of a sudden going to see like a 92 win team next year. But depending on what kind of moves get made this offseason, what kind of progression is made by some of these young guys, I could see this team winning 85 games next year, which puts them in a spot where if you won 85 games this year, you would have been in the playoffs. With six teams going, like you're in a pretty good spot at 85 wins, and you're playing, exciting baseball for the entirety of the season. And I think we were kind of hoping that was going to be the case this year, and it wasn't. So, we're a little disappointed that maybe our timetable for this rebuild is taking a little bit longer than we hoped. And I mean, obviously, this is going to be year 5 coming up of Ben Cherington. And so, yeah, like it's put up or shut up. Like he's got to show something next year. But you can see the path. You can see how it could come together.
I think there's a lot that has to go right. I think the positive of it all, the Reds, they get better, but I don't really know that the rest of the division got better, at least at this point. The Cubs are still I still feel like the Cubs are kind of a middling franchise. The Cardinals stink.
Until they sign Ohtani next year.
Yeah. Well, they made like Wrigley Park and all bunch of Wrigleyville, whatever it was. They spent all their money. They're not signing Ohtani. But the Reds got better, but I also think there's a lot of question marks with the Reds. I think the Reds are in a they're in a better boat than the Pirates are, but they have a lot of question marks with their young guys as well. The Brewers are going to be good.
That's where I wonder. Just to cut you off because you brought it up.
Mhm.
I wonder. I think the Brewers are going to be the biggest factor into next year too. Because again, like you're talking about the Cubs and Reds, still question marks. We understand that, but they are up and coming, right? But with David Stearns leaving the Brewers, and the Brewers are kind of tight knit with the purse a little bit too. They've already made some moves, like even last year with trading away Hader and such. And I do wonder what their movement is going into next season. Jim's on mute.
Good talk, Jim.
Still on mute.
I think that's a good point, and I think the Brewers could go a few different ways this year. Like they could put all their eggs in the Corbin Burns last year of arbitration basket and just hope that he leads them, to the promised land. I don't know if that is something that the Brewers are going to do though, because historically they've kind of been a team to kind of cash in on those guys. So they could do like a mini rebuild where they let go of they trade Burns and Woodruff, right? You trade those two guys, you maybe take a step back for a year, but then you look at the guys coming up in the Brewers system. They've got the number 2 prospect in baseball right now, number 1. I mean, 1 or 2, depending on what you're looking at. Like they've got some guys ready to step in the next like year or two, where you could probably have a pretty quick rebuild process. And trading Burns and Woodruff would, like I said, it would take them back a step for a year, but you're probably reloading with stuff by doing that.
But yeah,
So
like back to my
Burns
point
to
though, I do think that the NL Central is the window's still open there.
very much.
I feel like we felt at one point we were thinking this was the year. I don't know that anybody really took a stranglehold of the division.
But someone could have. That's part of the reason. That's why
Correct.
you want to see the accelerator pushed.
Correct. But like just going into next year, I don't know that anybody really you can look at and say that team is head and shoulders above everybody else.
But what I'll say the counterpoint is, I believe you. You're correct. But someone very well can. Like things could click for the Reds and they are a monster next year. Or things click for the Cubs
Pirates?
and they are a monster next year.
What if things click for the Pirates, Donardo?
You didn't allow me to finish. Or
I don't
things
want
click
to.
for the Pirates. Like I'm not saying they're all right here. I mean, I do think the Cubs and the Reds are above them. But right, if all things go well for the Pirates, like the Pirates could make some noise next year. To Jim's point, we'll talk about like you can see a path. And if everything clicks, I mean, let's be honest, like everything pretty much clicked for the Reds this year. A lot of things clicked. Yeah. Like every rookie came up and pretty much just performed. So like, what if
like Donardo? I'll stop you right there. Like if Ellie De La Cruz clicks, they're head and shoulders above everybody.
And that's what I said, right? Like,
good talk, Jim.
What an idiot!
What am I doing? All right, the Reds also have they've got Votto's contract coming off the books. They have money to spend this offseason. And the Reds have shown in the past that when the window is open for them, they spend. And they don't spend a ton, but they'll push their payroll up to 140 million or so. And so I expect the Reds to be pretty heavy players in the free agency market this offseason to kind of supplement those young guys that they have, because they're going to be able to. They had really good attendance all year. Revenues were good. They've got contracts falling off the books. They're going to spend some money.
Also a good point. And again, Cubs, we know will. Reds going to it's the window's open, but it's slowly becoming the Pirates are entering this window. Like you're looking at the 13, 14, 15 Pirate situation all over again. Like it's just like a 3-headed monster in this NL Central. Like that's the potential that's up there right now.
Team's still in Cincinnati. They find a way to screw things up.
There'll be another Cueto game.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
Now, like the Cardinals, on the other hand, if they figure it out, we're screwed.
What did you say, Jim?
I didn't say anything because I was on mute.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just not
3
going to put
times.
myself on mute anymore.
I don't know why you do.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Poor guy's out of practice.
Continue, Tyler.
No, that was it. Just if the Cardinals decide that they're going to figure it out, call it a day. Pirates decade's done. It's all over.
All right, well, let's do this. It's been 30 minutes. We've been reminiscing, talking about the season. We're talking a little bit ahead right now, so let's talk ahead. Like, what do the Pirates need to do then this upcoming offseason if they want to go ahead and make some noise and maybe things click and have a playoff run?
Get better players.
You know, that's not a bad idea. Trade away the bad players, get good players. I like
You know
that
what I'd like
strategy.
to
Shout
hear?
out to
I'd like to
Jonesy.
hear GM Jim Sherrington, because he has led a very good franchise.
That's true.
Well, you signed Ohtani. That's what Jim
Yeah.
Sherrington would do.
I traded Brian Reynolds and then signed Ohtani. But no, I think I mean, if we're talking about things to see this offseason to get prepared for next year, one that, you know, we've already kind of heard a little bit of, like, we need to figure out what is Henry Davis's role on this club. And, you know, Ben Sherrington said on Sunday, he's a catcher. Like, they're going to have him catch and continue to get better at catching throughout the offseason. That surprised me a little bit because I feel like if that was the case, why didn't we see him catch more down the stretch when the games didn't really mean a whole lot, right? I guess they meant a lot. They had their pretend playoffs that they were doing there at the end of the year.
But that guy you're talking about, Ben Sherrington, also said he would catch once Austin Hedges was moved.
That's true. He
happened.
Said he was supposed to catch. So I'm confused on that whole situation. I think if it were up to me, I would just say, hey, like, you're not a catcher. We need your bat in the lineup. Focus on hitting and learning right field. And just spend the next 5 months learning right field. Do nothing but hit and learn right field. I feel like that would have been the route I would have gone. I guess we'll see come spring training a little bit more as far as what they have in store for him. I think there's value. Like, if Henry Davis can catch, there's value in that. We talked about how valuable it is having like a 1A and 1B catcher that you can move them in and out of that spot, use them maybe in other spots on the diamond, use them on DHs on off days. Like, there's value to it. It's just if Henry Davis could catch a lick, I think we would have seen him for more than 2 innings. I think he caught the entire season. So I'm a little surprised with that move, but that's something that they need to figure out. They need to figure out what Henry Davis's role is on this club. On top of that, they need a first baseman. There's no one in the system who can really take that spot. They don't have a first base prospect who's ready. They don't have anybody on the current roster, I think, who's suitable to be a first baseman. People, you can say Jared Triolo's name all you want. I don't think Jared Triolo should be a first baseman. I think he's much better suited to play elsewhere on the diamond. And, you know, I don't think you can hand a first base job to Jared Triolo right now. I think you got to go out there and you got to find an established veteran bat. Whether that's Carlos Santana again, I don't know. But you've got to go out there and you got to find somebody who can stabilize that position and give you, okay defense and power from that spot. And then I think you need to sign like a real legitimate center fielder. Like, go out there and find a real center fielder. Doesn't have to be an everyday guy, but like a Kevin Kiermaier type guy where you can like rely on him for really, really good center field defense. Don't have to play him 600 plate appearances. Don't have to play him every day, but someone who can kind of like stabilize that spot and you can plug guys in there if you need to. I think that's, and then starting pitching, 2 starting pitchers, one on a multi-year deal, like one big name guy, and then one reclamation project, 1-year deal. That's kind of those. That's my wish list.
Is there anything I need to add there?
If you want to add
Well,
or subtract,
just to touch a little more on that center field spot, preferably a right-handed bat there. I really do think they need another righty, especially the platoon with Jack, because we don't know what we get out of him, and we know we can't hit a lefty. Just to go back to the Henry Davis thing, I'm completely with Jim on that. I think the ship has kind of sailed on him as a catcher. I think the Pirates truthfully do believe it, but it's one of those they don't want to take it away from him yet. I really would, like Jim said, have him just learn right field. And to be honest, if he cannot learn right field, if you give him a couple months and it's just not working, I'm putting him at first base immediately. I'm done. We're going to move him to first base. We're done there. We're going to put him at first base. I don't care about the athleticism. I don't care about the arm. Learn how to play first base, and we'll just worry about the bat. That's where I'm at with Henry Davis right now. I don't think he catches anymore. I don't think the Pirates believe in him as a catcher anymore, or else we would have saw more of him. I also think there's something to be said about Endy behind the plate, and I don't know if the Pirates really thought that he would be as good behind the plate as he was. I know we saw like the miscues here and there, but he was really good behind the plate in general. So there's some stuff to clean up, but everything looks like he could be an everyday catcher there. And the Dalton Varsho type comps that Jim threw around for a while that we all thought were accurate, I think he's good enough to actually stay behind the plate. And truthfully, that might be where his value is, because defensively, he's going to be valuable behind the plate. The bat can play a little bit less than it would have to if he's more of a utility type of guy. So I'm okay with him there. And then just tack on, yeah, you need more starters. You can't go into next year with even what they have right now and the guys coming back. You have to get a legitimate innings eater, one that you're going to keep all damn year. Like a Rich Hill's not going to work. You need a legitimate starting pitcher.
to go to the whole Endy Varsho thing, I think what stands out the most to that is, now granted, like Endy's defense does look pretty solid back there. Like I feel like you're comfortable with him being every day, but I think it's less of that and more of Henry Davis isn't a catcher. Because if Henry Davis also was a catcher, you got to find play time for both of them. And there's Endy's opportunity to play second, first, outfield, like whatever it is, and it becomes that Varsho. But because of the lack of quality defense, I guess, from the catcher position from Henry Davis, which just doesn't exist because he doesn't play there anymore, which is why I'm also confused with what this whole offseason presents for him. That's why Endy is just going to be your everyday catcher. And I'm okay with that. Like I am. He hasn't had a good season this year. It was definitely a disappointment than what you expected. But like what you saw defensively in the catcher position felt pretty good. And, you know, catchers typically take more time to develop. Maybe this upcoming year, he has the whole offseason, like maybe he can click, right? The whole Henry Davis thing, like his whole development has just been weird. I mean, it's weird to begin with because the weird injury. So it took more time, although it didn't take more time. He was up here rather quickly in a sense, like big grand scheme of things. But, you know, he had like the injuries where he wasn't like playing, and he came back this year and he was healthy, but they're like basically dicking him around like where he was going to play. He was a catcher and he had to stay down there because he had to catch. And they brought him to play right field. We didn't play much right field down there to learn it, to come up here to be an adequate right fielder. So he had to learn it up here on the fly, and they took all the catching away. And it's just like, that's why I also look like we're talking about the disappointment of the rookies. Again, these like built-in excuses. But I feel there's a lot on Henry Davis's plate this year. And then also dealing with the injury late in the season too. That like he probably just didn't perform because like his head was in 9 billion things. And that's why I kind of feel like you guys are talking about, if you didn't plug him in to catch at all after like Hedges was moved, that tells me you probably don't feel he's a catcher either. Because why would you do that? So if you don't feel he's a catcher, why are you having him focus on catching still? Like you saw the inadequacy at right field, clean that up. If he's going to be right fielder, make him the best version of a right fielder he can be. So that way you're getting the best version of Henry Davis that he can be, instead of still like half in everywhere. But at any rate, I'm with all you guys too. Like that makes sense. But they need to figure out, which I think is the biggest thing for them. It's not so much free agency, but they need to figure out who they want to keep, who they want to trade, and move them. Like they need to make some trades. I mean, there's a roster crunch. There really is. You can't have like 98 middle infielders. They're gonna have to find somebody to trade. Cruz is coming back. Who's the fee you want to roll with shortstop? Who's the ones you don't? Like, is Bay on the block? Is Nick Gonzalez on the block? Like, they need to move some parts to get some parts too.
They got to quit hoarding shit.
Well, they can't anymore.
Like
They
Ben Sherrington right now is a hoarder. He is just he has collected every little bit of absolutely below average talent, praying that one of them will not be below average. And they all turned out to suck.
So I think that's the problem, right? I think especially if you're looking like middle infielders, right? Like there's a log jam there. You can't carry all of those guys. You've got to get rid of some of them. And you hope that trading them is the way to go. But then you look at them and you're like, who really would want any of these guys? Like I don't know. Like I'm looking at this, like who really is going to give up a valuable piece for Tucupita Marcano?
They might get a Bailey Falter.
Like Tucupita Marcano is not getting you anything. Tucupita Marcano is probably getting non-tendered because he can't play next year anyways. So they're not going to leave him on the 40-man all offseason just to
maybe he
not
gets you
have
Adam
a guy.
Frazier.
Right. So there's one guy who's probably off the roster, right? But then you look at the other ones, and like Alika Williams maybe has some value as a defensive only shortstop, so that you keep him on the 40-man, but you keep him in Indy. Like you don't want him on the major league team in any way.
No, Jim, we don't want him on the 40-man.
I think there's a little bit of value to like a
No.
really good defensive shortstop.
You can find those
He's worth
in the middle
a
of the season.
Yeah, and he's worth a 40-man spot. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
All they got to do is give up a Robert Stevenson for him and get another one.
And we shouldn't want to have to do that.
I know.
But like Nick Gonzalez at this point, I think is probably a guy who you would want to shop around, but I'm not really sure how much value Nick Gonzalez has right now. Like, does Nick Gonzalez have as much value as Kevin Newman had last offseason? Kevin Newman got you a middle reliever.
No, he doesn't.
I agree. I don't think Nick Gonzalez has the value that Kevin Newman has. A much longer track record of major league success. Nick Gonzalez has a 40% strikeout rate, right?
Yeah.
So like you look at these guys and like who's going to be the guy on the outside, like the outside looking in, Gonzalez, Bay, whoever it is, what kind of value do they even have in a trade? I don't know. I really don't know.
I really think that the majority of those guys you just listed would be more likely to stay on the roster if you just DFA'd them or stay in the organization, I should say.
So I guess that's where I'm at.
I think they're all getting
Kevin
claimed.
Newman DFA'd.
Like Nick Gonzalez would get claimed because he's
Probably.
got 3 options.
Does Alika Williams, though?
Alika Williams probably gets claimed because he's got
I
options. I think he does.
I think that's the closest of them. Well, Marcano. But I think Alika is there too, because also to Tyler's point, I feel like you can get a glove first in free agency rather cheaply after Rule 5. You know what I mean? When everything's settled and done, like you can get the veteran version of Alika Williams for pretty cheap.
But the veteran version of Alika Williams, you need the roster, like because he doesn't have options. Alika Williams is valuable because you can just demote him to AAA. You can't do that with Andrelton Simmons.
But I feel like there are 1,000 Alika Williams hanging out there.
Yeah, that's Chris Owings. Like you saw him their minor league deals.
Okay.
Is Chris Owings better than Alika Williams? Like,
probably. Yeah. Probably. But these are decisions that they need to make. They've got way too many middle infielders on the roster. They got to get rid of them. And I just don't know if they can trade them. I don't know who would possibly really want them.
No, that's all fair. That's part of the problem because they all underperformed the values. I mean, at the lowest. But the Pirates have to do something. They have to get better, and they can't just hoard below average middle infielders because they don't want to trade them at the lowest value. Like, you don't make two wrongs because you're just bad at developing. So they have, but again, that's why I have to figure out who and what and who's going to get the best return. I mean, personally, I think Nick Gonzalez has more trade value than Kevin Newman, but I'm not here saying like they're going to get a stud opposed to Dowry Moretta. It's still not going to be great, but I don't think anyone's DFAing, you know what I mean? Like Nick Gonzalez in that sense. So there's value there.
I think there's way more value than on hanging on to a Nick Gonzalez than there is trading him. Rather, like Kevin Newman had more value, but Nick Gonzalez will come back to burn you before a Kevin Newman will.
Agree.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why there's trade value there.
I'm not quite ready to give up on Nick Gonzalez. Like, I think he's a guy, again, like he's got multiple options remaining. You can stow him in the minors and just hope he gets better. Now, there are people who have given up on, like G1 Bay, don't want to see him again.
I'm good.
Tucupita Marcano, don't need to see him again.
Nothing. Adds nothing.
Alika Williams, don't need to see him again.
Correct.
Leover Peguero, don't want to get rid of him right now. Like he's again another guy too who has multiple options remaining. So even if Peguero shows up next spring training and he's not your guy, he can get sent to AAA and he can just develop even further.
Basically,
Guys,
you mentioned everybody with talent.
Ben Cherington hoarding middle infield prospects. I had to share it. Cody, I hate you. Continue, guys.
Well, you just ruined my train of thought.
Well, the guys that you mentioned there, Jim, like the guys that want to keep have talent. That's really what it comes down to. Is like a Nick Gonzalez, you know he has talent. We can see him be with the ability to hit the ball over the wall. Leover Peguero, you see the flashes defensively. You see him hit the ball over the wall. You see the contact skills. Those are two guys you hang on to. The rest of them, they have a very small, like niche ability that you can probably find anywhere.
I'll say like Bay has talent, but he also just seems to be
he's
really
so
dumb.
bad everywhere else.
He's
too.
so
Confused.
dumb. Like just lapses in his game that happen way too often that cost the team games. And like now Bay, more than any of those other guys though, has probably helped the Pirates win more games. Because like when Bay is on and he's playing his game well, like he can be a game changer, but he's off more often than he's on. And when he's off, he's way off. And again, another guy who's got plenty of options. Like if you really wanted to let Bay stay in Indianapolis for a little bit longer, I mean, and hit and figure it out a little bit more down there, you have that ability. He's still young, but yeah, like they've got to do something with these guys because they can't hold on to them all.
Yep. So more pitching, first baseman, potentially a center fielder. That's where I'm at.
That's a lot of things that need to be done.
It is.
But like I don't think the center fielder needs to be like you don't need to go out there and sign like who would like you don't have to I would love for them to sign Cody Bellinger, but I'm not like calling for that, right? But somebody like a Kevin Kiermaier or, you know, Tyler was mentioning a righty, you know, maybe like a Michael A. Taylor, he's a free agent. Somebody who's like really good defensively that you can platoon with somebody or you can use as a defensive replacement. You know, somebody you can give 300 to 350 plate appearances to feel fine about it and have somebody give you really good defense out there.
Yeah, I like that.
There's also like a little weird thing that we're just ignoring about McCutcheon coming back, and you sign a center fielder, and there's a bit of a logjam there in the outfield all of a sudden. Because there's a lot of guys out there.
I don't know if there is really. I mean, if you go Reynolds, Joe, Sawinski, free agent,
Davis.
maybe Davis, but that's it.
No, Davis will be in the outfield.
Yeah, maybe.
Guys, if you sign a free agent, like the one person who has trade value is Connor Joe. Like you could flip Connor Joe, then that could be your out. Not the worst thing. He has value opposed to the other ones, and that can clear up a spot while you're accomplishing things.
I do think one of them has to go if you do bring in a center fielder.
Connor Joe has value. You could trade Connor Joe for a piece. Not like a start. Like you're not going to trade Connor Joe for like a starting first baseman or anything, but you could trade Connor Joe for a high upside reliever.
I am so tired of trading useful baseball players for relievers.
I know, but that's probably all you're getting for him.
I know you're right here. I'm just tired of it. But I do think that if they were to go get a center fielder like you're mentioning, one of those outfielders I think has to go.
And I think a lot of that too, if Kutch comes back and can play outfield, but I'm kind of like riding that ship. That ship sailed for me too. Like he's come back as a DH, which still. No, the problem with that though is it clogs up the DH. No one's going to get like a pseudo day off and can go in the DH. But you have Henry Davis, you have Sawinski, you have Reynolds and Connor Joe and that guy.
I'll say this too. Like, I think you have to hope that Andrew McCutcheon is able to play one day in the field a week. Like, you've got to really hope that that's the case. But if he's not, he was 36 years old this year. He's going to be 37 next year. You don't have to give him 150 games. You know, he played 112 games this year. I think you're fine, like, giving McCutcheon 400 plate appearances next year and just saying that's good. Like, you don't need Kutch to be an everyday player at age 37.
I get it, but like that's a roster spot right there that's just gone.
And but you're gonna give it away to somebody. Like,
yeah, they are, but that's a lot of guys that really don't have positional value already getting used up.
I think that's why it's important, like, to figure out Davis. Like, Davis can't just be Davis has to find a position in the field. He can't be a DH.
And to be fair, the other part of that is Endy's got to get work at second base. Because maybe that buys you a little bit of leeway there at that position. Like fortunately, there are some like positional flexibility with some of these guys that I think you can get away with some stuff. Like Endy being able to play second base, possibly, maybe being able to move to a corner outfield if need be. Triolo just literally being able to play anywhere. But Triolo being able to play shortstop is probably another part that might lead into being able to do something like feeling more comfortable with an Andrew McCutcheon as just a DH.
Yeah. And I think this team is in a good position where they've got guys with flexibility like that. I was surprised kind of how they handled the whole catcher situation after Hedges left. Like the fact that Endy never played anywhere but catcher. Like I think he played like a couple innings at first base, but he never played second. He never played a corner outfield spot. You know, Davis never caught. So like that position flexibility that you had in those guys was just never used or shown. So it's just a matter of like, okay, do these guys have position flexibility? Like what we heard about and saw all throughout the minors, is that actually going to happen at the major league level? Because it's valuable if it can happen, but we didn't see it this year at all.
Yeah, I think quickly that's the other part of it, is that maybe if what Donardo mentioned with Connor Joe, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but if Connor Joe does get moved, then maybe you do have an Endy or a Henry that can go play first base and platoon there against a lefty instead of having just a right-handed platoon option for first base.
Maybe.
Maybe. Then Doug asks here too, do you think they're losing faith in Davis and Endy as hitters, and that's why Davis may continue to catch because you can get away with Davis's bat at catcher? I don't think that's it. Like, I don't think they've lost faith in either of those guys. They're too young. And I think they both, like, the numbers weren't what you wanted to see this year, but you still like the approach that you saw from both of them. They both were still putting together, Davis looked lost at times, but, walk rates were there. Strikeout rates were there. Like, there was nothing on paper that like jumped out to you that said, these guys are bad. I think there's still more there to tap into with both those guys.
Yeah, I feel like it's more just keeping the options open. Whether we agree with it or not, it's just them trying to keep the option available.
I feel that way too. But it's also one thing, you say one thing, what's going to actually happen could be totally different. And that's why I went back to that point. Like, he said that he was going to catch up that All-Star break too, or I'm sorry, after the trade deadline, and never did. So, like, what he's saying right now, I don't know if I'm putting all my eggs in the basket and saying that that's going to happen. Like, that might just be a feel-good story, whatever, and then he comes into camp, and it's like, oh, yeah, he just learned right field the whole time.
That's another thing, too. You can't really take anything that Ben Cherington says, unfortunately.
This team had O'Neal Cruz playing in the outfield for fun.
They really did. They
and the guy they want to play in the outfield, they did it. They had him catch the whole time.
The more we talk about this,
I'll say you're going to start. You're
so
just
terrible.
You're going to make me upset now. Like,
this team is
you already were giving me that. As I was talking about, I'm a net zero and I'm like very neutral in this season. You went to Henry Davis right away and started getting me like negative and pissed off. But
they have no idea what the hell they're doing.
You start talking about O'Neal Cruz being locked up in AAA so he could learn outfield, which he never played in the majors.
No, he did for like one inning.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
And now we've got a guy whose birthday's today, by the way. Happy birthday, O'Neal Cruz. You're now 25 years old and you've played like 40 major league games.
Yep. And Henry Davis had to stay down so he could catch, so he can come up to the majors and not catch. But anyways, let's move forward.
I hate
because this is going to turn into a twist. Probably a fun twist, though. But
we tried so hard to be positive.
They just do the dumbest things.
They're so stupid.
All right, let's finish off then. We're 57 minutes in. We said we're going to do our over and unders. So let's see how terrible we did.
Let's see how we did. I think I did fairly well.
I kind of looked. I just looked at it last night, just rather quickly, and just kind of seeing. I think we did pretty well. First up, though, so Jim must have asked this. So Kutch, a 107.5 weighted runs created plus. Tyler and myself both picked over. Good job, Ty. Air high five.
Boom.
Yeah, we finished with a 115, so he beat it handily.
Nailed it.
And some people don't want our best hitter back next year. Whatever.
And now I'm thinking about this. I don't know if I didn't look these all up, so someone might not actually know if to look up. But anyways, Cabrian Hayes. Now, wow, Cabrian Hayes, what a number too. So Tyler picked this, 14.5 home runs. Jim and myself both picked the over.
Good job, guys.
Look at us, Jim.
I knew it was going to happen.
By me as well.
That was a good number. I believe I said dark horse 2020 candidate about Cabrian Hayes.
I think you did.
He ended up 15-10, so not really close to that. He didn't steal as many bases this year. That was a little surprising.
Yeah, he sold it out for power.
Well, if you remember too, we had like 5 caught stealings in April, so that just kind of
I think he kind of got a little gun shy. Yeah, he had 20 last year, just 10 this year, and with the new rules, you would have thought that number would have gone up.
Charlie and Charles probably told him to stop.
That's true. That's probably what it was.
I'm going to move forward on that one. So, Kanan Smith and Jigba, 9.5 home runs. This was asked by myself. You
Oof.
both picked the under. Congrats.
Good job, Jim. We have brains.
Yeah, I think we nailed that one.
Meet us at the beach house, boys.
Kanan Smith and Jigba was in the major leagues for like 2 weeks and saw 1 game. So there's that. All right.
He actually
Henry-
somehow played 15 games. But
I don't
yeah,
remember
go on.
any of them.
I don't either.
All right. So Endy Rodriguez promotion, June 14th.
Who has
Tyler picked the under.
Oof.
I picked the over.
If I remember correctly, I think I said somebody would get hurt and they would call him up.
I think that is what you said. Like you said, it'd be like he would be called up for like
Right.
a week or 2 and then sent back down.
So you were correct. Someone did get hurt and they didn't
And
call
they
him
did
up.
not call him up.
They said,
They
you know
still
what, Tyler
did.
Heineman,
Yep.
we want you.
All right.
Yeah, July
1-1.
17th was the day, by the way.
1-1.
July 17th.
So far, I'm perfect.
Same
Okay.
here. I'm perfect too.
So here, another one. So Tyler asked this. Jack Sawinski, 2205 batting average. And what was it? 224?
224 is what he finished at.
So 220.5, basically. Jim said under. I took the over. I'm so good.
If it weren't for that hot
I'll
streak
tell you what,
in
man.
September, I would have had it.
I should go work in Vegas.
You should be an odds maker. You should.
I'm
Really
gonna
should.
look this up because I bet he was under that number
He was.
with like 2 games to play.
He probably was.
So he was on September 27th. He was at 220.
I predicted this.
And then he ended. I mean, he ended the year on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 game hitting streak.
Tell you what, just put me in Vegas.
All right, next one. Also pretty nice. I think I gave this one Mitch Keller's strikeout rate. K rate of 21.99. I know we talked about that because it was like the number was like it was a good number. I remember a lot of discussion, but you both took the over. And now that I'm looking up, you both were correct. It was actually a 25 and a 25.5.
Oh, so we killed your number. You're
We
never
crushed
it.
in Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I just set my guys up for success.
We
I
beat
wanna
the
make you
number
guys
by
look
about
better.
20%.
Yeah, like that was an easy win.
Yeah.
We had that one in April.
Congrats. I'm still perfect on my answers.
I'm 2-1 now.
I'm no longer perfect on my answers. So Jim gave this number. Oh no, Cruz, 27.5 errors. We both picked the over. Wisely, we just didn't realize Oh no, Cruz is going to play like 4 games.
What did he finish with?
I'm looking that up right now. He finished with 1.
All right,
Yeah, he
one
was
in
on
4
pace.
games.
1 in 9 games.
9 games, sorry.
So he was on pace to finish with the under.
Well, I'm sure one game of like 3 years was coming.
Yeah.
We'll
so
never know.
We lost.
We
but
won't.
there's an asterisk there.
Yeah.
That's all.
There's no asterisk.
Yeah.
All this
Majority
it all
rules.
matters.
Tyler and myself say there's an asterisk.
Yeah, there might be.
All right. So the next one also really, really bad, but I won. Tyler gave this Mr. Oddsmaker. Travis Swaggerty, 3.5
boy.
defensive runs saved. I said under. Jim said over. I win.
At that point, it looked like it would be like a decent number.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
because did we do these after the rosters were already set?
No.
The show, yeah, because I remember we
Did
did
we?
them. I think
So that was
night.
that was,
It was like we did these later than normal too.
yeah. So that I think we did this like night before opening day.
Yeah,
To be fair, they still at that point did not have a center fielder.
you're
No.
right.
They still don't.
They
But no
went through a whole
asterisks
year
there.
without a center fielder
They went the whole year without a center fielder or a shortstop
or a starting pitcher, really.
or starting pitchers or a right fielder for half the.
But
half
they've
the-
done that for like the past 3 years.
I know, but like at
They had,
some
like-
point,
They had like
Come on.
5 guys.
I think this is like 2 years in a row I've given a Travis Swaggerty number and everybody picks over and then it just doesn't happen.
Well, I picked the under just to point out.
Whatever.
All right, next one. Colin Holderman, 4.5 saves. I think it was 2, if I remember. Some of these I looked up last night. I think it was 2. Jim took the under. Tyler took the over.
It's a good pick. Like if he didn't get 4.5 saves, like then they overused Bednar. That's not on me.
2 saves. So
Sure.
I win that one.
That's not my fault.
Except it is your fault.
No, it's the Pirates misusing Bednar.
Okay, one of us have to look this up. So the next one was, Jim, you said this one. 29.5 pitchers used. Now, we just did the Sporkle quiz. I think it's over.
I think it was over.
But yeah, 29.5 pitchers used. Tyler and myself both took the over. So I don't know if you can get us that number right now. That one I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's over.
I can look it up real quick.
So I'll move forward because I know the answer to this one. So the next one was Rich Hill. And this was a nice one because we know how he gets injured so often. Tyler said this one, 14.5 starts. Again, the other thing caveat was this is all with the Pirates, these numbers.
Oh, he crushed it, didn't he?
So
14.5
quick.
starts. Yeah, he crushed it.
Real quick, are we counting position players pitching as a pitcher used?
No, I don't know if we actually clarified that, but I feel like that's dirty.
So what was the number?
29.5.
So then the answer is 29.
So we're using pitchers that we're
Nope.
using position
Nope,
players.
you gave your answer.
Nope, you gave the answer. 29.
That's fine.
You both lose.
We both
That's
lost.
fine.
That means I win.
Okay, so Tyler and I both missed that. That's fair.
All right.
Rich Hill, 14.5 starts. Jim and I both picked the over. Crushed that. Got it.
To be fair, Rich
Um,
Hill was like weirdly durable.
He was the
He-
whole
he
year.
took-
Like even
He
with San
took the
Diego.
ball every 5th day. He did exactly what you would have. He did more than what you would have
He
expected.
did.
And now rumor is he's potentially going to sit out the first half next year and sign mid-season.
Little Roger
See how that
Clemens,
goes.
like
Good luck
Yeah.
with that. He'll be 44.
The Pirates are going to have to trade anybody. Like, here's our trade deadline acquisition, guys. We got Rich Hill.
That's something they would do too. They'd be like, we really need a
Absolutely.
pitcher. Let's sign 44-year-old Rich Hill for the stretch run.
All right. This
these
one I
outfielders
look
look
up.
like they need yelled at.
This one I look up, but I'm pretty confident I know the number anyways. Jack Sawinski, games played, 109.5. He played the over on that, right?
Yeah, he was over.
Just
Did I
confirm.
do that?
Jim, you took the over. Tyler,
Okay. Thank God.
you took the under.
I did.
What was Tyler thinking?
I
He
was
was at 144.
I'll tell you what I was thinking was that he should be in the minors immediately because the spring training was so bad.
Back to the
It
minor
was
leagues,
bad.
boy.
I was ready to get rid of him.
Which is why Cannon Smith-Njigba is going to have 9.5 home runs.
Yeah.
That's why I picked that number, which is a very fair number if they did the correct move.
You were ready to get rid of him, and then 2 months into the year, I was ready to compare him to Juan Soto.
The duality of Jack Sawinski.
So I'm an idiot here. I think I figured it out, though. So the next one is, and this is bad, Rowan Z. Contreras,
Oh boy.
1.95 F4. We all know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Tyler, you picked the over.
What a dummy.
I have here that Rowensy picked the under. And I think that should say DiNardo based on the way this is going. So I guess
right.
I took the under, which means I was right again.
You know what? Don't hate me for being a believer.
Don't hate me for being correct. Just like I was correct on the Pirates should trade Kevin Newman.
You guys yell at me about my negativity.
That's true. You were over on all these,
Yeah, I believe.
except Stawinski.
Yeah, never believed him.
It's only negative if it's wrong, though. If you're correct, you're just correct.
No, you
That's
just,
true.
No, you just pick you're negative.
I'm just correct. I'm just
No.
factually accurate.
No.
Anyways, the next one, speaking of factually accurate, Vince Velasquez, 4.495 ERA. I took the over because I didn't see the injury happening. I missed that one in my prognosis. But Jim picked the under because he's an idiot and got lucky.
3.86, baby. He was a good pitcher
He was.
You're welcome, Jim.
for 37 innings.
Right. And so the last one, 1.5 All-Stars. There was more,
They-
right? Who
they had
I
two.
forget now. It was Mitch
Keller.
Mitch and Bednar.
Bednar. Was that it?
Just them. Yep, just them.
Okay. So 1.5. You both picked the over, so you got it.
Good job, Jim.
Good. Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Good job, everybody.
To be honest, that might have been the best over under, like looking back, because there's been I think last year we were kind
Yeah.
of that was
Terrible.
stupid. That was stupid.
I feel like we did pretty good there. And we
Well,
had some
like-
good numbers too.
Yeah.
Like we put together some good over-under numbers.
We could all be bookmakers except for DiNardo.
That's fine. You be the bookmakers, and I'll make the money making the bets.
We've seen your fantasy football team.
Let's not go there. Let's not. Don't do it.
Anything worth money, we don't want to really use you for.
No, we don't.
That's fair.
Like you're great at like creating videos, but like the actual, money part, stay in your lane, homeboy.
Well, anyways, we'll move forward. We're already an hour 12 into this. We finished up everything that we planned on talking about. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to speak of, or any moments?
Who do we
want to
win? Who do we want to win the World Series?
The Pirates.
My immediate thing was I don't give a shit.
You got to pick somebody.
Do I have to?
You have to.
I don't really like any of them.
It doesn't matter who you like.
Ugh.
Okay, how about this? Who's going to win the World Series?
Ugh. I don't like that either.
Fine, let's just log off. We don't need to keep going.
Like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna root for the Phillies. Little personal
know
connection.
why.
I'll root for the Phillies.
Tyler wants a ring.
I do want a ring.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the Orioles just because
They'd be fine. Like, I wouldn't be mad.
I would like to see them. Jim says no. Screw you, Jim.
I don't want any team rewarded for tanking. So the Orioles are out.
That's every team.
So are the Phillies okay?
No. The Phillies are good. The Phillies don't tank. The Phillies have always tried. I'm going to go ahead. I actually bet on the Phillies. So the Phillies are my team going forward.
Ride with the Phillies.
Ride or die. They're winning tonight. They're about to sweep the
What is it?
Marlins.
7-0?
I think it's 7-1 now. 7-0. No, 7-0.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I have been in off-season mode that I'm just I'm a passive baseball fan right now. This is probably the least I've been into the playoffs in a while.
They've been kind of boring so far.
I watched the Rays yesterday and a little today, but
The Rays.
The problem is that we're at that point in the playoffs where it all happens so early.
Yeah, I just really want to see. I want to see Phillies Braves. I think that's going to be a hell of a series. And then I want to see, like, I know I have the Phillies going on, but I think Braves Dodgers NLCS like would be an incredible series to watch. Phillies Dodgers probably be good too, but like Braves Dodgers, those are just the names on those two teams.
Right.
That's just good.
And the
It's going to be
connections.
good. It's just going to be good baseball. Like if that happens. So if the Phillies can't win the World Series, so I win my bet, I'm going to go ahead and say I just hope we see a Braves Dodgers NLCS. The rest of it, who cares?
My money's on the Braves. They're just too damn good.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Phillies. Or the Dodgers. I don't care. The Dodgers can win too. Like, I'm with Jim. I want a big market team to win.
So I'm with the
I
Braves.
wouldn't mind Mookie Betts getting another ring. I'm a big Mookie
I'd be
fan.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I don't hate the Dodgers like I do the Yankees.
I don't hate the Dodgers either. Really?
They're smart.
Yeah, the Dodgers do it different. Like the Dodgers, like they have a lot of money that they spend, but they also have a ton of
like a mofo.
They have a ton of homegrown talent too. They're just a very well run organization.
Yeah.
Without
And then they
the World
see
Series
dummies who want to trade Mookie Betts, and they give them their scraps for Mookie Betts. And they give them the money they need for Mookie Betts. Yeah, they're smart. Anyways, let's get out of here. We're just going to ramble off now.
Okay.
But with that said, appreciate y'all for watching. Jim, you're going to be on tomorrow, right? With some more gaming?
Yeah, out of the park tomorrow night.
Out of the park tomorrow night for Jim. And then, I mean, it's off-season mode for us. So, but we do have a bunch of stuff coming up. A lot of stuff coming up. Right now, it's going to be our typical like Starbucks in the morning. Potentially, that'll be more seldom, I should say. This show is going to be more prevalent, right? Starbucks will be more like if there's news, Jim and I come on talk about. But we're back to NS9LIVE every Wednesday in the off season now. And then there's a lot more shows coming too. So stay tuned. We'll be releasing all that news soon. And then also the Fanboys. I almost forgot. The Fanboys are gonna be on the 18th, right? 2 weeks from now.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, the Fanboys. But with that said, we'll see ya when we see you. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.